to make sure that we use this opportunity to hear the Dhamma, which is the teachings of the Buddha. This is so important to us. It's such a rare and precious opportunity to hear the Dhamma. This Dhamma is the teachings that change your life and which leads to happiness, the end of suffering. And so it's good to just have 30 minutes left to do this. And it's enough, right? Just a few words are enough. Just a few words, may I be happy, is enough to really change the way you think about that moment, right? May I be happy in this moment. May I develop a mind of love towards myself and others. It's an extraordinary shift from the mind that we usually carry about with us. And so when the Buddha talked about love, as I said before, he wasn't just asking us to develop this mind of love. He was asking us to let go of minds like hate and ill will, of minds like cruelty and harm. And it's confronting sometimes for us as spiritual practitioners to look at our mind with bravery, courage, to see what's going on inside your mind. No. But when you start to examine your mind, and this, by the way, is why we develop this skill of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not the goal of your meditation. Mindfulness is a tool that we use to gather data, information about what's actually going on. We need to know, right? We need to know what's going on in our mind. If we don't know, how else are we going to start transforming it? You can't just walk around thinking because you did 30 minutes metta meditation that you are full of loving kindness, that you are some sort of bodhisattva, that you are a divine being full of love. No, you're going to have to look a little bit closer, a bit more scrutiny of what's going on in your mind. And it's hard to look at ourselves sometimes and see that actually we don't have hearts of love. So when the Buddha talked about love, he talked about it in different ways. One way that we talk about it is through the generation of that mind of love, that loving kindness, that metta, by developing that mind. But he also talked about it as an intention. Love is an intention. So this is the second factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. Are you familiar with the Eightfold Path? Noble Eightfold Path? Yeah. So I think you've been looking at things like paramitas, the kind of good qualities that you can develop. And the Buddha talked about the good qualities that we can develop, talked about the Noble Eightfold Path, which is divided into things like ethics and mental development, speech, and things like that. And the thing that I want to look at tonight is this thing called Sama Sankappo. Sama Sankappo, which means right intention. So there's 3 right intentions, right thoughts, right ideas that the Buddha asked us to develop. First is Nekkhamma Sankappo. This means renunciation. It means letting go, giving up. This is what we did at the beginning of our practice. I encourage you to let go of all that stuff in your life, just so you can have some freedom from that stuff. And when we talk about renunciation, we're particularly talking about letting go of the sensory pleasures, sensory experiences that we have in life. Here you are having a simple cup of tea. We're not having a 3-course meal. You could be at the movies. You could be down at the Moonlight Cinema. You could be doing anything, right? But here you are working on your mind. And I think that's wonderful because so few people actually bother to do this, right? You're very rare in this world. You've developed this skill of renunciation. You have let go of the rest of your life for a week, for an hour or two, and you're here to work on your mind. This is an essential thing. If you want to meditate, you can't just do everything else in life. You have to put some time aside, right? So this is part of the right intention when it comes to meditation, is being able to let go, to renounce all that other stuff just for a short time so that you can have freedom from all that stuff. That means that you can be here and work on your mind. This is the first right intention. The second is the intention of non-ill will. It's like a negative phrasing. Non-ill will. So ill will, things like hate, right? So non-ill will, if we flip it, is love. Having a mind of love, of friendliness, of kindness. This is an important part of our practice. The third is a mind of non-harm. Flip it, a mind that is non-harmful or non-cruel is compassion. A mind that wants people to be free from suffering. And so these three things together are what we call right intention: renunciation, love, compassion. These are the things that you need in your meditation practice. These are the things that, in many ways, because it's an intention, precede our practice. And they seem pretty simple, right? They seem pretty basic. You know, let go, be kind, be gentle is how one teacher, Ajahn Brahm, puts it. Let go, make peace, be kind, be gentle. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. And this is the kind of attitude you want to have to your mind. So it does seem simple, but you meet a lot of meditators who start off, instead of letting go of sensory pleasures, sensory excitement, the things of the world, instead of letting go, they never let go of those things and they never sit down and never meditate because those things are so attractive that they prevent us from actually getting on the cushion. You know what I mean? I meditate after I've had dinner. I meditate after that episode on Netflix. Those things keep our mind active and busy, keep our bodies active and busy, so that unfortunately we don't get the chance to sit, see what's going on. So that intention of renunciation is essential, right? And once you've decided I'm going to sit, better bloody well stay there. Otherwise, all of those things, those delicious chocolate ice creams in the fridge, the pizza, the Netflix, all those things are going to take you away from the cushion again, right? As soon as you sit down, you'll be like, I could just have a little bit of pizza first. Up you go, you're gone. You never come back. So that renunciation is very important. And that's why I said at the beginning of the practice, let go. Give yourself some freedom. Let go. And that mind of holding on, grasping, holding something tight, that image is very powerful because when you let go, you have some freedom, right? And that freedom is so nice. The holding on is so tight and tense. The letting go is so nice and open, right? And I instructed you to let go of the past, let go of the future, have freedom. I instructed you to let go of the tightness in the body. Did you get some benefit from that? Relaxing? And again, that's so important because so many people come to meditation and they think they have to look like statues, that they have to be so tight and tense. And you see that I see them, I'm not looking at you, they're like this. And you think, oh gosh, how are you going to develop a mind of love with that? You look like constipated, and you look stressed, and you look tense, and you look tight, and you don't look relaxed. You don't look happy. And so you need to let go of the tension and tightness in the body. Why? Because when you do that, you trick your mind into feeling good. When you let go of that tension in the body, you realize, what have I been holding on to? I've been holding on to so much stress, so much tension just in my body. I can remember getting a massage once, and the massage therapist was like, I've never seen such a tight back. And you need to work with me. Like, I'm doing my best, but you need to relax. And I can remember there was this stage where I felt comfortable and safe enough just to let go. And I swear my body dropped like 10 centimeters just from the relaxing. Like, it was just holding onto this bundle of tension. And when I let go, and I really felt it. I was like, whoa, you know, massage is powerful for that, right? You learn how tight, how tense you've been, and you see, I've been holding on. And if you're smart in that stage of meditation that we do, you'll see the benefit of letting go, right? When you let go of past and future, that worrying, that thinking, that going back to past and future, back to past, you can be present, letting go of that stuff, you relax. In the same way, when you let go of your body, you relax, right? And it feels good. And you learn from that, that experience of holding on is suffering, letting go is happiness. An escape from suffering. And it's the same with your hate, the same with your ill will. You've been holding on to a lot of hate, right? A lot of ill will, mostly directed at the people around us, sometimes directed at yourself, often directed at politicians, the world, that annoying person in your office, that irritating person in the meditation group. You've been holding on to hate. Have you seen the way it stains your mind? Have you seen the way it lingers? How it disturbs you? How you can't get any peace when you've got hate in your heart? The mind of hate, the Buddha described as being like a sick person. A sick person can't enjoy anything. You have this experience when you've had like the flu or something, even someone will bring you your favorite soup, and you'll be like, that tastes like good. You know, you can't enjoy it. People will try to get you to do something, but your body's tired and you're off. And then, have you ever felt that moment where the body gets better? You're like, I'm better. This is what it's like when you have hate or ill will in your mind. You're like a sick person. You can't enjoy anything. When you've got that irritation, that ill will bubbling in your brain, nothing will make you happy, right? No one will make you happy. People will try to cheer you up, and you're like, get away. You know? You're like that sick person. So letting go of that hate, letting go of that ill will, it's like that moment when you get better. When you see in your mind, using that skill of mindfulness that you've been developing, when you see the letting go of ill will, it's very beautiful. When you see that you actually have the ability to let go, that you don't need to hold on. When you see that, you start to understand it's possible for me to develop a mind of love. It's possible for me to let go of hate. It's possible for me to train my mind. It's possible that I can have some control over the types of thoughts that I have. And it's the same also with these thoughts of harm and cruelty. And again, it's very difficult for us to admit that we have thoughts of harm, that we want to get revenge on that person, that we want them to fail, that we want them to smash their car into a brick wall. These thoughts pop up, right? Everyone's going to say, no, not me. I'm the only one. These thoughts pop up in our mind from time to time, and they're frightening. This is why most people end up with a psychologist, because they're like, I have this thought of harming someone. And the psychologist is right, it's totally normal. Everyone has these thoughts. These thoughts are confronting to us wherever they come from. They're so base, they're so almost instinctual. These are these kinds of thoughts percolate, they come out. This is how war crimes occur. This is how domestic violence occurs. This is how bullying happens. This is how racism, sexism, all of these things happen because of these kinds of thoughts, wanting to harm others, to hurt them. So they exist, right? And in the same way, if we can learn to let go of them, then we can have a beautiful kind of mind. And it's possible to train the mind in this way. And so the Buddha, he gave a talk about this topic of Sama Sankappo, right intention, right thought. And he talks about his own journey training his mind. That when he was in the time before he became the Buddha, when he was the Bodhisattva, but he wasn't enlightened at that time. He was developing his mind, training his mind, just like us. He was aware of the kinds of thoughts that he was having. He was trying to develop more understanding, more insight into what was happening in his mind. And he saw that he could divide his mind into two types of categories. There's two types are those three Sama Sankappos. That's the renunciation, the love, and the compassion on one hand. On the other hand, the opposite of renunciation is sensory experience. The opposite of love, ill will. The opposite of compassion, cruelty, harm. He saw that these three types of mind positive and these three types of mind were negative or wholesome, unwholesome, beneficial, non-beneficial, useful, not useful, good, bad. Pretty simple, right? If you could just divide your thoughts into good, bad, wholesome, unwholesome, then we actually have this opportunity to learn. So firstly, you need this skill to be able to see what's going on. The second thing is to identify the kind of thoughts you're having. The third thing, the most important thing, is to understand what happens with those thoughts. They don't just sit there. They go somewhere, right? If you have a thought of ill will, it's likely it will bubble forth into some negative speech or hating on someone, doing something. It's going to have a consequence, is what I'm saying. There's the action and the result. Even in your mind, think about those horrible old people who are just mean, bitter, twisted. Run out of words. You know some people like that? You think they started out like that? You think they started out like that? No. They drop by drop, thought by thought,
became horrible, bitter, twisted old people. They didn't get any wisdom. They didn't learn. They didn't have someone maybe who could help them understand that each of these thoughts is staining their mind, that they become their thoughts. Right? So if you've got some wisdom, you'll see this link between the kind of thoughts you have and the person you are. You might decide, what kind of thoughts do I want to have? What kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to be a person who has a lot of hate? Or do I want to be a person who has a lot of love? And as we saw in the meditation, you can actually develop the mind. We've been developing our minds on all sorts of things without any awareness, right? We've been training our mind. Train your mind with this thing. Train your mind reading the news, watching the politicians. You're training the mind. You're getting some sort of response, right? Every time that politician comes on the screen, the hate arises, right? Yeah, I know. This is what happens. This is how we're training our mind. And so the Buddha, he said he divided the thoughts into these two categories, good and bad. And that when he had these thoughts of unwholesome thoughts, that there were bad results, that the mind would proliferate on these thoughts. And that when he had these good thoughts, there was really no bad things that came from them. Experience with the mind of love, right? You're sitting there, the mind is quite happy and beautiful. He used some similes to talk about the first minds, those minds of sensory excitement and pleasure, and minds of hate and cruelty. It's like a cowherd. I was just in India, literally seeing this very image of a cowherd who has to be very careful because the rice, the wheat, the crop is high and it's about to be brought in. So it's ready. And that cowherd had better keep his cow in line with a stick. Because if those cows wander into that field, they're just going to munch on the crops. And that cowherd's going to get in trouble, get punished, maybe even lose his life. Our mind, if we don't, loves to go and munch on the crops. Love, have you noticed this? When you have a mind, your thought pops up of hate, you just spend the rest of the night hating yourself. Just feed and feed and feed. And the same with things like sensory pleasures. Oh, I could have a pizza, or I could have a pizza and an ice cream followed by a nice espresso in that beautiful cafe that I love in France. You know, see how the mind kind of like punches, because it kind of proliferate. And this is like that cow. So those cows are going in and just eating as much as they want. And so you've got to keep the mind with those kinds of thoughts. If you don't restrict your mind, if you don't restrain it and retrain it, your mind will wander back to those thoughts and it will eat as much as it wants. And this will cause trouble for you. It will cause trouble for others. And so Buddha said, the cowherd has to be very careful with those types of thoughts. The other types of thoughts of letting go, renunciation, thoughts of love, thoughts of compassion, these don't cause problems in our mind. These thoughts, you can have these beautiful thoughts and no problems for you. And so the Buddha said that this is like that time after the crops have been brought in, when
The cowherd can just sit under a tree in the shade. He stick down at his side and he can relax. And the cows can wander wherever they want, eating the leftover grain. And in the same way, we can allow our mind to really delve into these beautiful states, this renunciation, how powerful it is to let go of the world out there, to be here, to meditate, to work on our mind. How powerful that is, how essential it is, how wonderful and deep this renunciation can be. This is not just the renunciation of coming here for an hour and a half. This is letting go of this body, letting go of this sense of me, mine, letting go of this physical being. And this is essential for deep meditation. To let go, to renounce sensory experience on a very deep level. And so, turning the mind to this kind of renunciation is very powerful. The same with turning our mind to love. What is love? How does love manifest in myself? How does it manifest in my life? What is this thing called, with the song, what is this thing called love? It's fascinating. Where does it come from? How does it feel? And so when the mind of love appears, you should get to know it a lot. Get to become familiar with the feeling it has, the benefit it has on your mind, the power it has, the size of love, before we practice a kind of love that was bigger than us, that was infinite, immeasurable. What does this mean about the potential for your mind? And so we can allow our mind to munch on these topics. Same with compassion, wanting people to be free from suffering. This mind will move you to tears. And when you allow your mind to turn to these beautiful intentions of renunciation, love, and compassion, you're becoming more and more familiar with these types of minds. You're staining the mind with these types of thoughts. And this is what changes the habit pattern of your mind. This is what trains your mind, so that becoming more familiar with it, you can start to control the mind, you can develop the mind, so that you can have happiness that comes from having a trained mind, a controlled mind, so that you decide what kind of thoughts you have, so that you can be the kind of person that you want to be. You're not just bumbling along, allowing these thoughts to control you. You have a role to play. When anger and hate appears in your mind, people are like, oh, I kept on having hate and anger come up. And people are like, doesn't belong to me. It's yours. Deal with it. Right? You are responsible. This is our job as people walking on the spiritual path. We are responsible for our mind. We need to understand where these things come from, why they appear. When they appear, we need to understand how to deal with them. And the answer, the trick, is to let them go. Let them go. Don't hold on to them. And you see, it's possible when that mind of hate or ill will appears, that it's possible for you to let go. Just as you relax the body, just like that, you relax the mind and it dissipates, disappears. It's possible. And in this way, this is how we train the mind over and over again. And so we need the mindfulness to see what's going on. We need to understand the kinds of thoughts we're having. We need to understand the drawbacks of certain types of thoughts and the benefits of other types of thoughts. We need to be able to recognize those drawbacks and let thoughts go and cultivate kinds of thoughts that we want to have. And when we do this, we're developing mastery over our mind. When we do this, we're developing wisdom. And so this is why it's so important to understand the intention that we bring to every moment of our life, the intention we bring to every moment, especially in that sacred space that we give ourselves, our meditation practice, to be aware when you move into meditation. What kind of thoughts do I want to have? What kind of intention am I bringing to my practice? And that intention is what will guide your meditation, will guide your mind. That intention will help you guide your life to being a better person. And so this is a short talk about love and about the intention of love and the right intention, Sama Sankappo. And I hope it will be of some benefit to you now or in the future. Does anyone have any questions?
About 10 minutes before we have to be out of the building.
Okay.
Be short question. Please feel free to ask questions on something.
I've been playing with these irritations. That I'm playing with them, going, oh, as you say, let them go. But also, maybe it comes back to what you were saying. My question is also go back to the intentions, and if you irritate someone, showing compassion to that person who also may be irritating if that's causing you irritation. And so I'm just wondering if it's more than just letting go, it's also perhaps understanding.
Yeah.
Those other intentions coming into play with it.
Yeah, so remember that meditating is a dynamic practice and it's a process. And sometimes something might work for you and other times you're going to need some different solution. So it's not like one, and be very suspicious of people offering you like the one true solution to all of your meditation problems. You need to be a dynamic practitioner who's responsive and reactive to what's needed. That's the most important thing. You need to do what's necessary, what's needed at that time. And so there's sometimes when, and I recommend only doing this for a short time, you sit with that hindrance or you sit with that irritation and you're like, what does it feel like to have this? You need to be able to recognize it to see what's going on. So that's the most important thing, to know its nature. And some people will say don't do anything in your meditation practice. But this is not how the Buddha taught. He taught a thing called right effort, which is also part of that Noble Eightfold Path, and specifically about meditation. And it's about overcoming these negative states. You prevent them, you abandon them. This is what the Buddha said. You want to prevent them from arising, and you want to abandon them if they have arisen. You don't want to spend your 1 hour of meditation a week in the grip of an irritation or a hindrance. This is precious time that we have, and if we're smart, we'll work effectively. And so you don't want to just do nothing in your meditation. Sometimes it might be good just to observe and see how grim that experience is. But don't sit with it the whole time, otherwise it's just the same thing. You're just stuck in that horrible mind. So look at it and understand its nature. See the drawbacks. How does it feel? How does my mind feel? Something like irritation, ill will.
the Buddha describes as being like a bubbling, boiling pot of water. And it's true, right? Kind of you can feel the energy, quite a lot of energy and hate, right? Feels so good. Oh, so powerful. You're the judge. You're the punisher. You've got all this power bubbling inside of you. And you feel it. And this energy keeps you awake at night, right? Prevents you from sleeping, right? And kind of have, well, it's a good feeling. We actually feel good, right? And if you think about what feeling good is, like being, or having peace, or having calm, then you see just how much agitation is there. So this is what we call the adinavas, the drawbacks. Understanding the drawbacks is really important. And that's wisdom, because most people who meditate never actually develop their faculty of wisdom. They just sit there and just observe, because this is how unfortunately people have been trained using these modern meditation methods. They just observe, and they're waiting for some sort of magical moment where their mind learns. Have you ever had any success in the rest of your life without applying a bit of effort? If you were driving your car, eventually you're going to have to make a left turn, or you're going to have to speed up or slow down. You're going to have to stop. You can't just do one thing. You need to respond to the situation. And so, yeah, like in your meditation practice from time to time, might be good just to drive, keep the foot on the accelerator. Sometimes you might want to stop. Sometimes you might want to take a left turn. So sometimes you might want to observe the hindrance. Sometimes you might want to understand the drawbacks of it. At other times, you might even apply the antidote. Like, okay, I've got a lot of hate. How about I develop some metta? And in this way, we can work skillfully with that mind. But just leaving it there, just not doing anything, might be okay for a little while, but you're not actually learning much about the nature of your mind. Sure, you might think eventually it will change, but we don't have time to wait for our mind to change when we can actually use skillful means to let it go, so that we're developing more wholesome states. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good question. Really, all the times.
I've got a question that's like totally off topic. It's kind of off topic, you know, it's a little bit out of the field.
No.
And it's very specific to Bhante, like Bhante's experience.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time, thankfully.
Think about this for the last few days or something. As a monastic, you know, there is you're representing, you're somewhat seen as a representation of Buddha nature,
Okay.
which is a lot, you know, like it'd be a lot to have on you. And I'm just wondering, because it's a gradual process, obviously, of letting go of the hindrances. Is it common practice that when this is quite a personal question, you don't have to answer it. It might be different, you know, I imagine every monastic will.
What's the question? Give me the question.
So like, is it common practice that if you have a hindrance come up and you're in a social scenario, that you can still perform?
No, I don't think that we don't have a guidebook that says you should kind of like disguise your what humans do, right?
Yeah.
This is what everyone does.
The restraint state, you might not have completed the restraint, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Buddhist monks and nuns are just humans and people at various stages of the path. And we are flawed humans. So when we talk about abandoning these sorts of things, don't think that I mean, I can talk about it because I know those thoughts appear in my mind, right? And I can just say how happy I am to look back at the person I used to be and see how much my mind has changed since I began meditating, since I began understanding the Dhamma. And I feel so sorry for that person I used to be, who used to have so much hate in my heart and so much ill will. Oh, gosh, I was so angry and bitter, and I was at risk of becoming one of those horrible old people. Right? We all are, right? Unless we learn some wisdom. And I just feel so fortunate that I encountered the teachings and that I had some instruction. And I understood it is possible for me to change my mind. And so, regardless of where I am now, I just know that I'm a long way from where I started. And this is the path for all of us on the spiritual path. And monks and nuns sometimes face undue idealism and a lot of projection. People want us to be perfect. So I can see the temptation to perform is kind of like, oh, I'm perfect, because they want to inspire others. I don't think it's a very skillful way to go. I think it's much better to be raw and real, to say, I've got hate. Because then I'm being honest. And then we can all say, actually, same here, me too. Then we can work on it, right? But I will say that I have let go of a lot of hate. And on the Buddhist path, ill will is one of the very last things to go, because it's an incredibly strong habit of mind that we've gotten into. And it's at the very tippy top of the path, just before full enlightenment. At the anagami stage, at the non-return stage, the very last stage of enlightenment, that's when ill will is finally fully let go of. But it's possible to weaken it a great deal. And you can see people who have actually come out of a lot of hate and ill will in their lives and how much happier they are. And the first step, of course, to that was knowing that they had it. And so spiritual bypassing, denying, like you see a lot of people like, not a lie, I'm just not a lie. So I'd much rather hear from people who could admit they've got some ill will, because then we can do something about it. But if people can't even see it, they're not going to be able to move away from it. They haven't learned much about their mind. And so, yeah, so does that answer your question? Yeah.
Could I ask a quick one?
Quick one.
So, have I missed something, or have you found us how to develop wisdom?
So have I missed something, or have you told us how to develop wisdom? I have shown you that, and it's about understanding the links between things. That's what makes the person wise. Experiential understanding of their own mind. Experiential understanding. When I get angry, this happens. When I'm full of hate, my mind is like this. When I let go of hate, I feel good. When I feel good, my relationships improve. This is when we see the links between things, it's developing wisdom. And it seems so simple, but actually it's very hard because of the habit pattern of our mind, and because we haven't been trained as meditators to see that we're an active participant in our practice. So when you hear these instructions of do nothing, it gives the impression that you are not involved in your mind. And so it's very slow for wisdom to appear, because you can't see the mechanisms at play. But wisdom is really about understanding for yourself. And so that's why at the end of the meditation today, I invited you to review your practice. So when you review, and I recommend doing this after every session of meditation, when you review, you are the one who understands what just happened. You just kind of get up and go about your world, then you've missed that opportunity of going, oh, I felt like this at the beginning, and then I felt like that at the end. And what happened in between? Oh, I did this, I did that. These things led towards peace. These things led away from peace. I can understand that.
then I can make progress. If you don't firstly know what's going on at the beginning or at the end, what the hell were you doing? The whole process is wasted. You need to understand what happened in your mind. I'll tell you, you need to understand for yourself what happened in my mind. What did I do that led to peace? What did I do that led away from peace? That's wisdom. If you can work out that, then you can practice anywhere, anytime. You don't need to wait for things to change. You're in charge. Yeah, so that's wisdom.
Thank you.